Hey, Pretty Girl Club. Welcome to another episode of the Exotical Story Time. Today we have a teen exotical telling her story. She says, "Hi, Exoticals United. I am 17 years old and I came across your channel when I was watching a lot of colorism videos. I used to believe that dark-skinned women were the ones experiencing colorism only, and I believe it can go both ways. I felt I was being pushed to only believe that I should hate the skin that I'm in and to hate women who were lighter than me because I was considered brown. My father is dark-skinned. My father is a dark-skinned African man, and my mother is a light-skinned American woman. Now I fluctuate between skin tones, but most people call me brown-skinned because of my brown eyes. My nose is small, but it has a bulbous tip, and my hair is a mix of coil and curls. I was very light-skinned when I was younger, and then I stayed in the sun a lot when I was younger, so I got darker. I don't know what I am mixed with, so I am taking a DNA test to figure out my ancestry because I want to know the people and cultures that came together to make me. Now let me get into some stories about my skin tone envy I've experienced before and after I found your channel. I remember when I enrolled into a summer job program about college, and I made a lot of friends from the program. And I remember this one friend, the girl we're going to talk about, we're going to call her Coco, and the other girl we will call Cece. So Cece is a mixed race girl and Coco is a dark-skinned, unambiguous black girl. I remember showing Cece my baby pictures of what I look like, and I also showed Coco my baby pictures too. And she had to point out that I am not light-skinned, and that was the first thing she had to point out about me. Another time she pointed out again when I was doing a TikTok with Cece and another girl we are going to call Car, and the filter made me extra white. Mind you, we are in a room with natural lighting, and when Cece showed her the TikTok, she was like, "Why is she so light? She's not that light." Another time when I was messing with this guy, and I ended up not messing with him for a bit because he played with my emotions too much and kept dragging me along, but just like high school, I couldn't escape him everywhere. I couldn't escape him everywhere I turned, so that made it hard for me to properly heal because I kept seeing him. So months after, I was over the situation, and I just so happened to get added in a group chat with him in it. And I remember one of these days we started to get cool with each other again, and this is when I found out I had white ancestry down my family tree, and I showed him a picture of my great 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 grandfather who is white and his family. He took my family photo and kept mocking me about it, and then he later tried to argue with me that he was lighter than me. Yeah, people do this all the time to us light-skinned people who are not white passing. No matter what color you are, like you could literally be the lightest person ever, but if you are not white passing, you're going to get told you're not that light-skinned, you're brown. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with being called brown, or if you want to call yourself brown, I don't care. But I've noticed that a lot of people do that because they want you to feel like you're not light enough. They want you to experience colorism. That's really what it is. They want you to experience colorism. They want you to experience feeling inferior for not being as light as someone else. They are trying to project it onto you. And I've noticed that a lot of light-skinned monoracials, they will make comments like, "Oh, what if a biracial person says I'm not light-skinned? What if a person who's lighter than me says I'm not light-skinned?" I give the same answer that I would give anybody. Other light skins don't get to determine my identity. I don't care if you're lighter than me. I don't care if you're more white passing than me. I don't care if you are 50% white, 75% white. I don't care if you have more white ancestry than me. Biracial people do not get to determine my skin tone. Other light skins, they don't get to determine my skin tone. Other people don't get to police my identity. How I see myself and whatever skin tone nickname I feel most accurately describes my complexion is the name that I'm going to use. So other people can give their opinion, but I have a right to not give a fuck about their opinion too. I'm not surprised that they tried to say you're not that light skinned. And for reference, this girl said that she is like Rihanna. That's like her phenotype basically. So yeah, Rihanna's definitely light skinned. Anyway, let's continue. She said, he took my family photo and kept mocking me about it, and then he later tried to argue with me that he was lighter than me. Mind you, I still look lighter than him, and I still have tanned undertones and uneven skin tone and hyperpigmentation, where some of my body parts are darker than others from the sun damage, but even I know that I am lighter than him, and he tried to go back and forth with me about that. Yes, it's because people don't want you to have control over your own self-perception. Other people want to be able to determine your identity. Other people have an identity of, Or they have this mindset of, if I'm not light skinned, you don't get to be either. If I'm not that light skinned and you are darker than me, or you appear darker than me, then you don't get to be light skinned. So once again, these are people who are insecure about their skin tone, regardless of what their complexion is, regardless of whether or not they're mixed. I would say the same thing. If they're mixed, if they're biracial, and they're still arguing, they definitely have a monocultural African American mindset. They have a monocultural Blackistan mindset. Because seriously, I've never seen any other community argue back and forth with a light skinned black person and say, well, you're not that light skinned. You're not that. No, I've never seen white girls say that. I've never seen Latin American girls say that to an African American girl. Nope. I've only seen other people who are black identified make comments like that and literally argue back and forth about skin tones, or telling an African American person or a multi-generationally mixed person like yourself, oh, well, you're not that light skinned. They're definitely saying it because they're trying to humble you, and they want you to experience the same insecurities about your skin tone that they've experienced about theirs. But let's continue. Safe to say, I don't deal with that fool anymore because he hates himself and wishes he can be like me. And by the way, I've also had another girl say that she was lighter. Actually, I think I've had two different girls try to say that they were like lighter than me. So I think both times I just ignored the girls because I don't really care. I don't care if somebody thinks they're lighter than me, but both times the girls were darker than me. One girl in particular, she was like a light cocoa. She looked like Meg Thee Stallion. She had that skin tone, like a light cocoa complexion, and she tried to say that she was lighter than me. Literally, my Fenty shade is 300 to 310, so I'm around Rihanna's shade as well. I'm around Beyonce's shade. Both Rihanna or Beyonce, sometimes they look lighter than me, sometimes they look darker than me. Beyonce is actually a little bit darker than me, but yeah, so I've noticed some people, they will try to argue back and forth with you as a way to try to validate themselves because they feel insecure about their complexion. But let's continue. She says, another time is when I used to be friends with these African girls. We are going to call one girl P and the other Key. So basically, I think one time during lunch, I was informing them about colorism within the black community, and Key decided to tell me that P has loose curly hair like a biracial girl out of nowhere. And I got the vibe like they were trying to one-up me because lo and behold, they were lying. I saw the girl's hair and it was not giving loose and curly, and maybe her hair was dry that day. But I know they were trying to one-up because I later found out down the line that they were talking mess about me behind my back and started being fake with this other girl, and I did nothing but be nice to these girls, even paid for things they wanted when I had the money and they didn't, which is messed up. Yes, I've noticed people will try to say stuff to one-up you, just like how I said when I was in high school, a girl, she tried to say like, oh, I'm lighter than you. She was not lighter than me, like whatsoever. But I just let her, I just let her have it. I was like, oh, okay, whatever. Like, I don't really care how other people perceive their skin tones or how others compare their skin tone to mine because I don't externalize my self-perception anymore. But yes, I've noticed in high school, that is a time where a lot of people are going to gaslight you. You said you're only 17, so I'm not surprised. These are teenagers. They're probably very ignorant and not knowledgeable about different skin tones and things like that. But let's continue. She says, I didn't realize I was light-skinned until another guy I was talking to who was Hispanic told me he liked me a lot and that he liked me because of how smart, caring, and funny I am, and also since I was light-skinned to him and he called me Redbone. I never felt like I fit in the light-skinned community because I wasn't light enough. I've noticed this is what they try to do to all of us. They try to make all of us light-skins feel like we are not light enough. So then all of us will be walking around like, oh, I guess I don't fit in. I guess I'm not light enough. I'm not white enough. And then we'll be over here thinking, oh, I guess I am an unambiguous monoracial dark-skinned black woman, or I guess we all look the same. And then we will go into black spaces and quote unquote take over and try to speak up. But then the unambiguous black community will say, what the heck? You're like 30 shades lighter than me. Why are you speaking on my behalf? So this is exactly what I'm talking about with them trying to kick us in and out of blackness. They try to kick us in and out of light skin, kick us in and out of being mixed. And so it is up to us to stand up for ourselves and to create spaces where we are in charge of talking and where we are in charge of speaking about our identities. But anyway, she says, I never felt like I fit in the light-skinned community because I wasn't light enough. And I remember my mom and dad telling me I was mixed, but I didn't want to believe it because I didn't look like a typical biracial girl. Yeah, like the stereotypical biracial. And it didn't feel right to claim that identity because my friends who are darker than me will think I am being colorist and trying to separate from identity when they do the same thing. Yes, I've noticed that if you claim your mixed heritage, especially if you are not 50% white, 50% black, a lot of people will say that you are trying to escape your blackness or you're trying to separate yourself from black women. And it's funny because saying I'm black and white, that's actually not separating yourself from black women. All it's saying is I am black and something else. That's it. You're not excluding the blackness. You're not erasing the blackness. You're just saying, hey, I'm black and I'm also these other things as well. But I've noticed that some people, when they have an inferiority complex about their blackness, they get mad when you talk about your non-blackness because in their minds, they view non-blackness as a flex, but that's their own internalized self-hatred. It's not my fault that you view your own blackness as inferior. I don't view blackness as inferior. I actually love my blackness, and I'm dead serious about that. I don't view blackness as inferior, and so I don't I don't have the same inferiority complex, or I don't get offended when people say, oh, I'm black and white, or I'm black and Asian. I don't have these thoughts in my mind like, oh, they're trying to say that they're black and Asian because they couldn't say just black. Well, they're not just black. So it doesn't make logical sense to say that you are just one thing when you are not just one thing. But anyway, let's continue. She says, I felt like I was made to hate on my light-skinned counterparts because they considered me brown skin. So I wasn't really sure of who I belonged to. Yes, this is true for damn near all of us non-white passing light skins. Like I said, I am Fenty 300 to 310. So Beyonce is like just a tad bit darker than me. Chloe and Halle would be just a tad bit darker than me. I can tell based on their foundation and their hair. Like the shade of blonde that they wear is too dark for my skin tone. So, but even I have felt the same way before as well. So this is a tactic that a lot of people use. It's a divide and conquer tactic. Or if people just don't like your personality, they will say, well, she's not even light skinned. You're not that light skinned. And they're saying it because in their mind, light skinned equals compliment. And they don't want to compliment you because they don't like your personality. They don't like your confidence. They don't like how you carry yourself. They don't like that you are quote unquote stuck up or whatever. They have a personal vendetta against you. And so because they view being light skinned as a flex, they don't want you to be able to have that flex. But guess what? Other people don't get to determine your identity. We've already voted on this channel, by the way, for those of you who are new. We have voted on this channel on what we are calling light skin. That is Fenty shades 390 and above, because we've noticed that when we talk about our light-skinned experiences, we asked each other, like, what are your foundation shades? And we've noticed that all of the girls who have had the same experiences, they are Fenty shade 390 and above. We noticed that once you hit around 390, that's when people start saying, you know, you can't talk about colorism. That's when they ban you from talking about colorism. That's when obviously you'd be banned from calling yourself dark skinned, or you've never been called dark skinned in your life. So I've noticed that Fenty shades 390 and above are light-skinned. I personally consider Fenty shades 300 to 390 to be a light-skinned person that is non-white passing as far as skin tone. Like for me, I'm Fenty 300 to 310. I probably can wear 330, probably all the way to 350. But I've noticed that if you are in the Fenty 200s, 100s to 200, your skin tone is, people might start accusing you of being a white girl, or like, oh, you're black, I couldn't even tell, or you don't look black. So I've noticed that they will try to gaslight us no matter what skin tone we are. They'll try to say you're not that light skinned if you are not white passing, and then if you are white passing, then they still won't say you're light skinned. They'll just say, oh no, you're just not black altogether. Like if you're Danny Lay's phenotype or something like that, they'll just be like, oh no, what are you talking about? You're just not black. Or if you're Meghan Markle's phenotype, they still won't say you're light skinned. They'll just be like, oh no, you're just, you don't even look black whatsoever. You look like a dark white person. So no matter what, they're trying to pretend like light skins don't exist, or they're trying to make the light skin community as small as possible. Has anyone else noticed this? How is it that when it comes to dark skin, there's a whole spectrum of dark skin? You've got the quote unquote brown skin, dark skin people. Like when I say brown skin, I've noticed that I tend to think of a lighter dark-skinned person. I tend to think of somebody kind of like Brandy, Jennifer Hudson, or somebody within that shade range. I don't know, Oprah. I think of women kind of like that. So maybe a darker skinned person, but you are kind of the lightest of the dark skins. Then you've got the super deep, darker skinned people. You've got the coffee color, the mocha color, all of these different shades. Why is it that the dark skin community has a whole spectrum of dark skin that they acknowledge, and then suddenly when it comes to light skins, oh no, you can only be one shade. But then suddenly when it comes to light skins, it's like, oh no, you can only be one shade and that's white passing, otherwise you're not light skinned. No, you don't get to tell other people how to identify themselves. Just like how when it comes to the colorism conversation, the women who feel like they are not quite dark skinned enough, they will use the term brown skinned. And if they feel comfortable using that term, and if they want to promote that term for themselves and speak from that perspective, okay, fine, they can speak from that perspective. I can give my opinion though. I personally do not use the term brown skin. I just use light and dark because I feel like the term brown skin is very vague. And also, when you look in African American historical texts, they don't use the term brown skin. They just use light and dark skin when they are talking about colorism or, the different experiences that people had in the African American community. They just say light and dark. They don't make all of these different subcategories and stuff. So to keep it simple on this channel, I just use light and dark. But have you ever noticed how everybody else gets to call their own skin tone whatever they want, except for when you're light skinned? Then you don't get to call your skin light. Only other people can bestow the light skin title upon you. But anyway, let's continue. She said, I never felt like I fit in the light skin community because I wasn't light enough, and I remember my mom and dad telling me I was mixed, but I didn't want to believe it because I didn't look like a typical biracial girl, and it didn't feel right to claim that identity because my friends who are darker than me will think I am being colorist and trying to separate from identity when they do the same thing. I felt like I was made to hate on my light-skinned counterparts because they considered me brown-skinned, so I wasn't really sure who I belonged to. Yes, they're doing this to pit us against each other. They want us light-skins to hate anyone lighter than us because that's how they do it oftentimes in the black community. In the monoracial, monocultural black community, people tend to hate anyone who's lighter than them, anyone who has curlier hair than them, anyone who has more keen features than them, or quote-unquote non-black features like light eyes, freckles, a thin pointy nose, thin lips, a narrow jawline, a long face and stuff like that. I've noticed people tend to hate on anyone who looks quote-unquote more ambiguous or has slightly more European features than them. So I noticed that people try to project that onto light skins. They want you as a light skin to hate anyone who is slightly lighter than you. And then if you're a white passing light skin, a lot of white passing light skins are on this channel as well, and they will tell us that people will try to put them against us as well. And they'll try to say, well, no, you're too white. Just like what I predicted. Like if you look like Meghan Markle, they will say, well, no, you don't look like a light skinned mixed girl. Like, no, you just look white. So you're not even a part of the community. Danny Lay, if you have that phenotype, same thing. They'll be like, oh no, you're not a yellow bone. You're not a yellow bone at all. You're actually not even on the scale. And then they'll try to say, oh no, Beyonce's a yellow bone. Yellow bone is only for those who look more like Beyonce. Danny Lay and Meghan Markle, you guys are too light, so you guys are not yellow bones. You're not high yellow bone, or anything like that. You guys are just white passing, or you just look completely not even mixed. But anyway, let's continue. She says, once I get my DNA test back, I will finally know if I am truly mixed or multi-generationally mixed with facts, because I don't know if I can take my parents' words for it. So I consider multi-generationally mixed to still be mixed. Like I don't really see a difference between the two other than maybe how the mixture is dispersed. But yeah, on this channel, I don't really differentiate it because, in my opinion, multi-generationally mixed people are mixed. I technically consider myself multi-generationally mixed because I am triracial, and the mixture within my background, it does go throughout the generations. But she said, even if I'm not, I would be a monoracial light-skinned woman, and I want to embrace my light-skinned community and not ignore it anymore. I am tired of feeling bad for the skin that I am in because I have quote-unquote privilege, and I'm tired of being used to be put against women who are lighter than me. This channel helped me a lot, and I thank you. Also, P.S. Could you make a video on how to even your skin tone? That would help a lot. I hope everyone has a beautiful day. Yes, I share my skin secrets in the Patreon, so definitely join the Patreon if you are curious. She says, I would say I have a Rihanna. She would be my lookalike, except I don't have green eyes. She is the closest that I know of that has similar features. My phenotypes would be caramel skin tone. My nose is closest to Rihanna's or Willow's nose shape, brown eyes. And last time I checked before I cut my hair, it was a mixture of 3C, 4A, and 4B. Nice. But what do you ladies think? Have you ever had people try to pit you against someone who is even lighter than you? I know that this has happened to me in my family. So all of my siblings, we are all light skinned. So I'm actually the darkest of the girls. So my two sisters are actually both lighter than me. And I have had family members try to pit me against, well, okay, I won't say pit me against them, but they will try to call out my sisters who are one shade lighter because they're, a higher yellow or a lighter yellow tone. I don't even know how to describe it. But I've had people try to do that in my family. But I don't really care because guess what? Other people can't determine how I navigate through society. The bottom line is just because a person is light skinned and they're not white passing, that does not mean that they do not benefit from light skin privilege. It doesn't mean that they suddenly are not navigating through society as a light skinned person. So you can say all day long, oh, Chloe and Halle, they're not light skinned. They're a brown skinned, unambiguous black woman. No, they're actually not because number one, they're damn near the same shade as Beyonce, who clearly, so many people argue and say Beyonce is only where she is because of colorism. And people actually argued later on with Chloe and Halle as they became more successful. Then people wanted to finally admit, okay, fine, you are light skinned and you only got to where you are because of colorism. People only watched Chloe Bailey's music video and not Ari Lennox because Chloe Bailey is light skinned. Halle Bailey, she shouldn't have got that role in The Color Purple because she's too light-skinned to play that role. So when it comes to this whole skin tone thing, or just when it comes to your identity in general, if you ask 10 different people their opinions on your skin tone, you're going to get 10 different opinions. Okay, so everybody's going to have a different perception of you. You cannot control other people's perceptions of you. You can only control your perception of yourself. So there are always going to be people that say, you're not that light skinned, you're not that dark skinned, you're not that white passing, you're not this, you're not that. There are always going to be people who invalidate your identity. So that is why I created this safe space so that we can validate each other. So here on this channel, if you are Fenty 390 and above, you are undeniably light skinned because we have a sample size of literally thousands of people on this channel who are Fenty 390 and above, and we all have those same experiences where they're trying to throw us in and out of blackness, throw us in and out of light skin, trying to compare us to someone lighter than us, trying to use other light skins to humble us. Have you ever noticed that? They can never humble us like just with themselves or whatever, or with their own phenotype or their own stuff. They always think that, oh, I'm going to have to try to use someone lighter than her to humble her. And they're only doing that because your presence has humbled them. That's why. They feel humbled, so they want to humble you. Anyway, what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.